Rick isn't here, but he sent his minutes around. Any comments on his minutes? I don't know if can we accept those without
they're
him?
good.
I guess.
Sure.
No corrections? Wonderful.
Oh.
Yeah, usually somebody catches something.
No corrections? No. So Rick had sent the.
One apostrophe, but I'm not.
Oh, wait a minute.
See what I mean? You almost didn't say it.
All right, so somebody wanna make a motion to accept the minutes as distributed?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Minutes accepted.
Apostrophe or not.
Treasurer's report?
Well, of the 3 accounts, they're pretty much what I have from the June 6/24 data, because I texted Kelly on Monday saying I have a meeting later this week, I'd like to current balances, and then I reminded her this morning, but she didn't get back to me. So, in the open space donation account on the June numbers, it's still 448,
I'm gonna
but
go
it's
check for
almost
you right
500.
now.
I'm sorry, what?
I'm gonna go check for you right now. Kelly only works Mondays and Wednesdays, but I can go open Vadar if you'd like.
Oh, it's not that critical, I mean, but it needs following up on anyway, but thank you, but usually she does get back, and I thought, well, usually you get an out of office or something if she's not there.
They're
I don't-
still closing out FY24, so they've been very
Yeah, I
busy.
figured it was busy time, and I haven't met the new lady and all, the other, whatever. Okay, so that's almost 500, if the $50 gets to where it's supposed to be,
Yeah.
that donation. It's in process, cause
Yeah.
Kelly said at some point it somehow got mixed up, and she said she'll fix it.
Yeah.
So I will follow up on that. Ryder is steady at 4,125, however, isn't that the one we're gonna be using for the Lawrence invoices, right?
For the stuff at,
'Cause it's Mount Jeff.
Yeah,
Okay, but I can't submit it until I have an invoice.
Yep.
So, alright. And then in the Hubbardston Trust, the balance on the June numbers was 15,366.06. And you got the checks from the Hay checks?
no, he was coming.
He brought them down, so
Yeah,
they've been
he
deposited?
stopped, but he
Oh.
stopped on his way down.
Okay, alright, so they're somewhere, and if I had the July numbers, it probably would be reflected there. So that was 2 amounts of $1,750, correct? Which is, we would add then to the 15, I'll just round it, 15,365 to 18,865. So that account is starting to be sort of important, the Hubbardston Trust. So that's where we are, but I'll follow up on both the 50 and the other pay invoices, so we stay current.
Mike?
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Susan, just for my benefit, what's the Hubbardston Trust and what can we use it for?
The Hubbardston Trust is money that's where our hay money goes.
Okay.
And the idea is to use it as a revolving account for things on trail work, etc.
Roll back into some of our preserves.
Yeah,
Well-
the only income that goes into it is the hay money,
That's the only,
basically.
and then interest.
But
yeah.
But it can, expenses that can come out of it are anything that we propose or that the rec department, or the
Okay.
Parks and Rec.
parks.
Right.
So,
Proposes
use
that.
for the loam, gravel, fill
Yeah.
material, whatever we wanna say at Mount Jeff, it can be used to offset that. or
It
to
could come
areas.
out of either account.
It
Yeah.
could,
We-
but then we have
Yeah.
to go to Parks and Rec, there's another step in the process,
Okay.
which they've been very flexible and supportive most of the time, so.
Okay.
But rider money is for Mount Jeff, but we don't have a way to really replenish the rider money, that's the catch. So we don't wanna.
We've been gradually, or not so gradually, working it down over the last couple of years.
So at some point, that might be,
Well, this is a good chunk of change that we're taking out now, I mean, not a huge amount, but in the $1,000 range.
yeah, we'll see.
Maybe we could take it out.
Should we, I mean, we'd have to vote that though. And that means then I would need to, well, but I can't do that until I have an invoice either,
Right,
it's
yeah,
chicken
but
and egg thing,
I'll
sorry.
get that invoice from,
Should we maybe, just because?
Tim?
Should I be taking minutes?
Oh, that would be great, because, so Rick said, why don't you ask Tim, and I forgot. And there's always the recording, but yeah, if you don't mind, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, that's great,
Okay,
Tim.
thank you, Tim.
Good
So
point,
did
Tim.
we settle that? What do we wanna do on the Lawrence money?
Other comments, we, wanna take a vote, does it need a vote?
It doesn't need a vote, but we'd have to vote.
But we don't have
We'd
the
have to vote
invoice
for an
yet.
approximate amount.
Yeah, so let's
And
wait
then
till the
just wait.
invoice.
I'll wait till
wait.
we get the invoices.
But that'll give us time to think about it, and we
Right.
can come back next meeting and have a little more.
And I don't think the item was expressly on the agenda. either.
No, that's true.
So, there's no rush.
But that was a good question.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well explained.
I'll put that, make sure that's on the next agenda.
Oh, that should have turned. Or no, that was at the bottom of the agenda. Yeah, we probably don't wanna say that. It's group.
Yeah, good point. Let's see, old business, Hubbardson Hikes, we didn't have a specific, hike, plan for the, just open public where it gets announced, but, a small group of us, Todd led a hike with Mark, myself, Steph, is that it? Oh, Rick.
Mike led that.
Mike,
Rick was
yeah.
on it. Oh, Mike led it, yeah. Yeah, down that trail next to Calico and Cream, and you know, look at it from the road, it's a little bit deceiving, it's sort of brush covered and doesn't look like much, it's delightful down there. And I don't know, we were talking about whether it was an esker or not, but there's a ridge that goes down there through for a very extended length, and it's, if it's not an esker, it's Esker-like. And, cause at certain points, there's water on both sides of it, and you're probably 15, 20 feet above the water and whatnot, as well as, some of the interesting.
Bog plants.
Bog plants, and there's bogs along there that you probably wouldn't wanna walk into, I don't know.
You might not walk out, is that what you're trying to
Might
say?
But they're real bogs, as well as some real interesting vegetation, birds, I don't know, there was just a lot on that. Mark took an extended walk, cause you can get to the Hobbit House and then over to where Destiny's Trail is, from there. And I don't know, you wanna talk about your walk a little bit, Peggy went a little further?
Well, that day, I went into the southern part of that area, cause there's a Woods Road ATV trail that goes down into that area. And, I wanted to see if there was any other
Yeah.
outlet from this big, open space area. And there isn't another exit onto a public road. That trail ends in a private property on,
Brook Pond Road?
Nettie Brook Loop Pond, whatever, off of Hill Road.
Yes.
So somebody living there has an ATV, and that's where that trail goes.
Which is kinda unfortunate, I had a response to your email that you sent, and that it'd be, if there was access to Hill Road, it would be really nice for them just to be able to walk down there and whatnot, but
Yeah.
there isn't now, so.
But Sarah and I did the full trail from the Parsons Road parking lot over to Calico and Cream the other day, and that was really nice. We spotted cars at both ends.
Oh, okay.
Hmm. That might have something to do with the Indian trails too. Parsons Road is specifically mentioned, and then over to Burnshire River or pond or whatever you wanna call it. So I've seen it several times. Sooner or later, I'll get to the bottom when I have nothing else to do, but that's interesting.
But it would make a nice walk, for, a Hubbardston Hikes thing, and it would be good to do it in the similar time frame when some of
Mhm.
that vegetation and man-eating plants are there and whatnot. So-
Seymour.
One of those sundews?
Sundews, two species.
Yeah, yeah. So at any rate, that
Yeah,
was.
pitcher plants, if you do the trail from
You can-
Parsons to
that's right.
Calico.
And just birds, great, was, just songbirds, what did we say?
Some
Great
waterfowl.
blue heron,
Mhm.
great blue heron off in the distance and a dead tree out there and whatnot, and, nice walk. And, the observation of it, and it's a pleasant walk too, a couple tricky spots, going across the beaver dam, a partial beaver dam where it's blocked enough so you can walk on it and just get your feet just wet just a tiny bit or whatnot, but the different types of things, I mean, real bogs out there, so. The land priority team, there's no significant change, at this, but we will have, quite a bit going on in the not too distant future. We have, planned with Anna from, North County Land Trust, as well as, she's already talked to people from DCR and whatnot, to have an educational night on land conservation and whatnot. And so that'll be sometime mid-October. So we'll be, gonna be generating a little brochure that can get sent around, as well as doing some mailings to announce it to folks. Town master plan comments, I did get a response, from Chris. It has not been finalized, but, since Nate is here, I don't know, what's the status? Because we had sent in some comments, but we didn't hear back, on that.
On the master plan?
On the master plan, is that?
Do you want my personal opinion or my opinion?
Sure!
We're working on it. We're working on it. It's coming together.
Okay.
It'll be done by the time we need the next one.
There we go. Gates Foundation area, the next thing is to get, loam up there. I haven't been up there, probably the vegetation is, back in force, I would guess. But the next step is, loam, so I think we'll probably wait till the weather's just a little bit cooler to, do that. Might get up there with a smaller tractor, do some more mowing. On a sort of a related note, maybe we'll get Tim involved with this, the big branch that came down, have you looked at the other branches up there?
No, I mean, not since you specifically asked about it, I've looked at it before.
Since it could be potentially dangerous, is that something you can do, or should we get somebody else to do that?
No, I can look at it.
You can look at that? Okay, that'd be good. 'Cause the one that came down, I mean, at the base where it came out of the tree was like this big, and it probably weighed a couple thousand pounds, so. And then, I think I commented on this, next year, there's things that we could do to spruce up there. Could use new picnic tables, and then some sort of fencing around the foundation. It's got the yellow caution tape around it right now. And then maybe have a plan for inside the foundation, so it just doesn't continue to get, overgrown, so. But we'll leave that, I'll take that off the agenda and readdress it maybe, next late winter.
Bob, I think you had the beech leaf disease on the agenda.
Yep.
I did order the, phosphite, it hasn't come in yet,
Okay.
we're working on that.
All right. Oh, in conjunction with the Mount Jeff stuff too that we did up there, And I got myself a note, maybe you could bring in some sort of invoice for the wood that we used up there to.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, make yourself a note on that. 'Cause we used, I think I'd mentioned, we used 6x6s and 2x4s and stuff that Tim had extra from a project that he had, so we can reimburse him for that lumber. The beaver pond, that'll be something that we do. I'd like to do that sometime in early to mid-fall, 'cause if the beavers come back and there's no activity that I've seen there recently, and it's all dried out, and so it's easy to pass through there. But if they do happen to come back in the winter time, then that's not a good time to be wading around in that pond. And if they get the water up higher, then you gotta get the water out. So right now, the water's really low, so that's a great time to look to see where we wanna put some sort of a beaver deceiver up there. And that's enough on that.
Where would we need to acquire a new metal fabric?
Where?
Yeah.
That's available from a number of different places. Tractor Supply, I buy them for the stuff that we use, for the stuff that was in there. And some of that is definitely reusable. We can look at that to see what we can reuse out of what came out. 'Cause I put some chains on it and essentially just picked the whole thing up. And it got deformed a little bit, but it didn't get ruined.
Mm-hmm.
And we can look to see how much of that we can salvage when we come up with a new design for what we wanna put in there. And now that the water's low, like, just a thought on that, and I don't wanna digress into that too much, but we have the culvert in a box, and we could come out with a pipe and then like a cage here and a cage there or something, so we split it up. I know I've seen just in some of the places where they're doing that. It just distributes the source of the water, and then these pipes are underground, so they don't make sound, so the beavers don't get attracted to it. So, but we can do a good job of assessing what needs to be done now that the water level's so low. Is there anything left on the open space plan? I think there was.
I do have one update. We got our review letter back from MRPC,
Okay,
so that was a step forward.
yep,
Basically, it says that, yeah, we think it meets all the necessary requirements, and we're fans. So that's 1 for 3. I mean, that was probably the hardest one.
Oh, good.
Or at least furthest away to contact. We still need to rattle the cages over at the planning board and at the select
just that
board.
last paragraph is a summary. One of these copies maybe wanna end up with Tim, which you can give to Rick, so
I
he
can
can
play
say, or Susan.
So, I'm gonna hold my fire until after the special town meeting. But we'll work.
What special town meeting?
At the end of August.
Oh.
It's public now, Mike.
Oh, good. I like it, thoughtful and detailed description. Good job.
So anyway, we'll remind both those committees that we had a request before them, and I'm gonna set myself a firm goal of getting this thing all wrapped up by the end of September.
Must feel good.
Consider the select board reminded. I actually forgot about that, so.
So everybody's seen this? Could I take the copy for Rick then for the minutes? So that's the original, right? They're going to you or?
I don't care, I don't need it.
He knows where to get it.
All right, that sounds great. It'd be good to get that just done right out of the way. Mass Trails grant, anything else on
Well, Nate and I are gonna work next week to put out the RFQ on the flashing beacons on Williamsville. That's the only thing that's happening right now.
Yep.
We
Yeah.
got the, so the third time was a charm.
Time was the charm, we
Fi-
sent it over.
finally went out,
Select
notarized.
board gave their thumbs up on it, and then we sent out the contract, but me and my new executive assistant kept missing parts of the contract, so we finally got it to them. It was good.
So the contract documents are all signed. I mean, they haven't turned around the official notice to proceed yet, but that's all right, we can put the RFQ out anyway.
Good we can.
And the other old, new business on old business on is the trail loops, loop trails that we got approval from DCR. That'd be a good, fall project to get that, finally marked. And then relative to, I don't know if we get all the work done this year, just doing the branch trimming it. Both trails, well, one trail, the loop that comes from behind the chimney over to Gates Hill, that might take 10 minutes of work. I mean, and
So that's the existing cut-through trail you're talking about?
yeah.
Yeah.
And then at some point we can talk about signs for it. And then, now that it's okay to make signs for it, cause the surface is great. I mean, that was one nice thing about that. It's a nice high ridge that looks down into a little, low area. And then the other one is off of, the old road that goes down through there and Flag Road, and then cuts up and winds around and ends up, down there, what we used to, referring to as Jassie's Meadow area. And one thing that we may incorporate, which is slightly not in the plan, if you're at the field, and you're gonna head down to behind the chimney trail from the top of Mount Jeff, it's a little bit hidden from the trail, but there's some sort of wide, I won't call it a roadway, and it's too wide for a cart path. But there's a section of it that probably travels, I don't know, a couple hundred feet, most of the length of that field. And it's probably 15 to 20 feet wide, that's flattened out, and then has a rock wall at the far end of it too, as a retaining wall. I don't know if anybody else has noticed that. I happened to notice it, cause it just, leaving the tractor up there, I just put it down on the far side, just to have it so it was mostly out of sight. But anybody else notice that? But it might be an interesting thing to incorporate into it, cause then it could drop down into where the trail winds up, anyway, so. And let's see,
Did you see this?
that's about all I got for old business.
What's it all about?
Trail maintenance needs, again, these wanna be, early fall projects, and a couple of them, I sort of have an end date on, probably, definitely two of them. Mill Pond Trail, fixing that bridge up, where we have a equine ride, Bay State Trail Riders that do that on a yearly basis, like the second week in October. And definitely would like to get that done prior to that ride, as well as fixing up the area, the one real mucky area in Gates Hill that is sort of right in the middle of it, where we had a poor semblance of a crossing there. So I guess that's the friendliest way to describe the attempt that we had made to cross that in the past. So we can come up with a much better solution than that. And that's about all I got. Anybody got anything else? It's quite a-
Oh, yes, I do. Trying to remember. The storybook trail that Tricia was proposing for Malone. I talked to her a little bit more about it today, and sent off, I sent off a, she's starting to get her materials assembled and, headed towards actually doing it. So I sent a email off to Emily Merlino at North County Land Trust.
Oh, okay, as a heads up about.
Just as a heads up, that this is a proposal and, you know, I'm 99% sure it falls
Yeah.
within the educational and nature study
Yeah. I would
elements
think
of the
they'd be-
CR.
I would think they'd be thrilled
Um,
with that, yeah.
Yeah, so there's no problem, but, we've officially notified them that, good, that's coming.
Great.
And she'll come back and say, great, sounds super.
Do they know that we got a grant for a trail upgrade there?
Yeah.
Has she, sort of had, any thoughts about how she wants to route that there yet, or not?
No, we talked a little bit, I mean, I think what I'm gonna do, she said it was 20 pages. So I think I'll lay it out on both the, you know, the little mini loop
Yeah.
and also on the between the pines
Yeah.
loop, and see what the spacing would be between each signpost, for 20 signposts,
Yeah.
for those two alternatives.
Should fit like great right there.
I mean, it could fit, I mean, I could potentially see it working on either. I'm just not sure on the really small loop whether they'd be too close together.
What's the really small loop, going down behind, between the pines and then looping around?
No,
and then
just
coming-
going out into the main hayfield, hanging left by the stone
Oh,
wall,
okay.
and then back through
And
the
then
other
back.
field.
Yep, yep. Yeah, that would be
That
nice
is
too.
pretty short.
It's pretty
Yeah.
short, and I don't know what the spacing would actually work out to for 20 signs.
That might be nice for, a nice length initially for particularly, smaller kids and stuff.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I don't know, I'll throw those two alternatives at her and see if she has a preference.
You
And
might-
they're just sitting in buckets anyway, so if we lay them out there and we don't like the
Yeah,
way it looks,
move 'em.
then you move 'em.
Pick it up, move it.
We might think about if there's particular places where we want people to stop and look around, like the pollinator meadow. Wherever one of these signs is, people will stop for a minute, right? And they're more likely to observe what's out there beyond the sign. So I don't know off the top of my head what other landmarks there might be that are worth thinking about, but the pollinator meadow is one spot where, even though it's not really on a trail, that might be a good place for one of the books.
Guess how many milkweed are in the pollinator garden? I only saw one.
At least we have one this year.
I'm gonna relocate some from Sawyer's Field. And we
Oh,
have
yeah,
some-
they have plenty in
but
their head.
I've tried that once already, it just doesn't wanna take. But, there are 7 echinacea, and I'm gonna get there now that the garden tour is done. Cause that was a little more pressing, but yeah, and just replant some more. I have some babies coming, and they made it through though. That's where they put the bricks from the house. We discovered that, cause you're digging.
Oh,
and
when you started digging?
Yes, but it was too late at that point, so they're just gonna have to survive. But some of it is, but I'd like more black-eyed Susans, but we'll work on it. I digress.
That's all I have.
That's all she wrote.
Mike?
Yeah, we, just to let you know, the Land Trust and the library collaborated this month on a combined story time and virtual Hidden Meadow tour.
East Quabbin then.
East Quad,
Yeah,
yeah.
okay, yeah.
Did I just said
You
the
just said
Land
Land
Trust.
Trust, which,
Well,
that-
North
that's-
County, yeah,
yeah.
Mount Grace, East Quabbin Land
Yeah.
Trust. And, what we did is rather than dragging all the kids out to Hidden Meadow, we brought deer antlers in, turtle shells in, we had a bird, video display going. I had porcupine quills, skulls, a bear skull. So we set up several tables and we manned those tables, and then the kids rotated around and we just answered basically questions. So we were approached to do more of those. And if we get an older age group, we could do it out at one of our preserves or at Hidden Meadow. And what we need are like docents at spots, at stations, where Tim kind of alluded to this, where, you know, you can explain things, where people stop. So just keep that in mind. We'll give it another try at another town. We were approached by OCAM and then a homeschool group, so we'll see if we can do
You had a good
that.
turnout, weren't there like 60?
Yeah,
participants that time?
66 people.
All at once?
Six.
I mean, it was like
No,
a
we
one-
broke it into 2 time frames, 1
Oh,
hour
okay.
each.
Yeah.
And then those 2 groups were then broken down even
Yeah.
further as
Wow.
they went to various tables.
Congrats, that's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
That's
Good
win-win-win, isn't it?
Oh yeah, that's
Yeah.
the whole
Yeah.
point. Get the
Yeah.
young ones out there, catch them early, and show them what we got out there. And also part of that, we did,
It's cash and release.
yes, of course. Make sure you wet your hands first.
Are you talking about the kids or the exhibits?
Yeah, catch them early, yeah. Good one, Mark.
That's why I like this
Um,
committee.
It reminds me of an old boss that had a joke about open season when talking about federal civilian employees when it's open season, and he was a big hunter. And he goes, "Yep, it's open season on you guys." It was a hunting joke. The other thing we did was art in wild environs, and we have a local artist that did a painting of a bear on plywood, and we cut it out, a bobcat and a porcupine, and we staged them out in the meadow, and people could see the animals, you know, representations of the animals in their natural environment, because you're not gonna see them, you know, when you're going out at noontime during the day, which is what a lot of people do. And that was really popular. We brought those up to the library and brought foliage in and, you know, made it look kind of natural in there. And the children really liked that also. So we're gonna do that again. So if we're gonna do a Hubbardston Hikes, I could go out in advance and put the bear out there, and then we can be
Yeah.
surprised by it. I'm not gonna tell you where I staged the animals.
That sounds like a good plan.
So thank you. Just one.
I thought you might put on a bear costume.
I've got the wolf costume.
Where'd you find, where'd you get a bear skull?
The artist, her son had a bear skull. Yeah, we can't tell you where they got it though. We don't really know.
Supper.
Everybody's got permits for anything we had. I didn't see any illegal feathers there or any of that stuff, you know.
That sounds great. Anything else? How about, next meeting, August?
I forgot
You know,
to.
maybe we get some of these, by then, we definitely wanna get some of these, trail specifics identified, so make sure Steph and I get out and have some specific, plans and recommendations and costs to fix up, both Gates Hill and Mill Pond. August 29th, that's the last Thursday of the month, how's that work for folks? Okay, all right, August 29th, next meeting. Motion to adjourn, this is a record for us.
Yeah.
Moved. Moved, I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Aye. Very good, folks.
So Tim, would you be able to make up
I
an
was-
invoice for
I
that
was just like,
lumber?
Russ, to put that
Yeah.
together.
Okay,
Let's make
and
a-
then just bring it next time, and then we'll talk more about where.
You want that back, or?
Or maybe we
I
could
can
take some
that
from one
as a
account,
copy, or
some
is it
from
the
another,
original?
because they're separate
Oh,
invoices.
it's just a copy.
Well, it's gonna be
I'll show the
Well,
select board.
the,
Oh,
phosphate
I'm gonna
for
put.
Oh,
Beech
and
Tree is
maybe-
gonna be
You want
more
the-
than
Could they be
file.
on the same, was
Yeah.
it- no, they're totally different, but, you know,
Yeah.
might as well get them both
And,
done at the
Yeah.
same time.
Yeah.
Put the open space either on
I don't do
the
it till
plan
it's
on the
delivered.
fifth or on the 19th.
Do you have ideas for another Hubbardston Hikes?
August.
Oh,
Well,
August.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
Next week it'll be, or 3 weeks.
somewhere I got a list.
Perfect. Talk to you next week, have a good night.
Cause there's that place
Good night,
I
everybody.
mentioned to you down.
Thanks, Nate. You
Have
too.
a copy of
Barry
it, that's
Falls
all.
and it's,
You know what, I need to talk.
would be mostly in
to-
Barry.
I
But
don't
you can
really-
start